What up, y'all? This is Patrick Hayes. In this video, I want to talk about getting into the flow and how to more deeply understand structure and the part that structure plays in the flow. So we have structure and flow, and these are very much, in many ways, like reciprocals. They're like two different sides of the same coin. And what most people don't realize is that in order for us to truly flow, we need to be flowing within the framework of some sort of structure. So a good example of this is flowing as a musician in a jam band. So a jam band musician flows to the music. Maybe they're a guitarist, and what they're doing is they're just improvising and going with the flow and playing amazing music to the beat and, in harmony. And maybe, if they're a jazz musician, maybe they're going, playing slightly out, as they call it, but then pulling it back together. Now, this situation is absolutely flow. This is the iconic nectary flow state that we're all aiming to get into, right? But in order for this musician to be able to play and get in the flow in their performance, they had to spend hours and hours and years practicing. So they had to be building a structure of neurological networks, structure of anticipation and execution techniques. They had to learn music. They had to learn how to read music. They had to do so many different things. They had to spend so many hours in a trial and error kind of situation that they built a structure that was sufficient to be able to jam and free flow within. So you see a lot of people, especially in the conscious community, that are all about the flow. And this is great, right? Because when we're in the flow, that's when we kind of hit that pocket and miraculous things happen and we don't have to think. We just kind of intuitively move and we're in the right place at the right time and everything syncs up and it's really, really beautiful. But I think sometimes people put an overemphasis on this aspect of the flow state without giving enough credence to the aspect of the structure that gives them the capacity to flow in the first place. And something that I've noticed is that if you're too hyper-focused on the flow without giving enough importance to the structure, then several things happen. One, you will eventually find yourself in a situation where the flow flows you right into a rock and you become stagnant and you can't kind of get out of this space because you're trying to keep creating a flow state where there's not a flow state available. What's actually important there is problem solving and troubleshooting and something that might be more of like a push-pull situation. And secondly, if we're always focused on the flow state, then what we're actually doing is we're flowing within structures that are being contained by other people or being held up by other people. So in a sense, we're mooching structure off of others. So how I would explain this is that if you want to flow and you're going through the flow in your daily routine, you're waking up and you're going to your yoga class and then you're going to get coffee at the coffee spot and then you're going out to, experience some sort of festival thing, or you're going to whatever it is, you're going through your day. Realize that that's maybe very much flow for you. But in order for you to flow into all of those environments and have that flow experience, maybe even just calling your friend or getting a phone call at the same time, think of how much structure there is surrounding all of those experiences and how much structure is necessary for you to have those experiences. For you to go to yoga class, think of all of the framework structures that had to be built by all of the people that are creating that establishment, right? The coffee shop. Without structure, that coffee shop's not going to be open. You're not going to be able to go there. You're not going to be able to, move through the line really quickly and enjoy the morning coffee. You're not going to be able to go to festivals without the structure that's been built. And you're not going to be able to call your friends and be in that flow state by getting those random calls right at the time you're thinking about your friends if there wasn't a structure that was already built for you to flow within, right? And that structure needs to be upheld. Now, yes, after a certain level of structure building, a structure can be upheld from a place of flow, meaning people that are holding the positions that are upholding the structure can flow within those positions. But in the building stage, there's very much a troubleshooting aspect, a specific learning curve, a kind of push-pull experience that had to be gone through in order to erect these structures that you have the experience of flowing within. And if your life is completely only focused on the flow without focusing on building other structures for others to flow within, then you're kind of like mooching off of other people's work and you're just trying to surf on the nectar, right? You're not contributing to the world of structure that expands the space in which we can flow. So this is something that's important to know, right? Structure is what contains flow. And the more we build out a infrastructure within our lives, within our habits, within our environments that is conducive to the kind of flow that we ideally want to experience, then the more flow that we can experience within that. But if we're just surfing off of the structures that are created for us, then in a sense it's like we're not adding structure for greater flow. And ideally, as contributors to the human experience, when we develop ourselves, when we go through the more difficult situation of troubleshooting or figuring out how to do something that's difficult that hasn't been done before, or pushing ourselves to develop different skills that we have to go through some level of stress in order to develop, when we do this, then we start setting platforms and structures for other people to be able to flow, right? So when I create a video like this, right, I've went through the process of figuring certain things out and learning how to explain them, which isn't always an easy process. But I've been able to do that so we can create more of a flow state for other people so that they don't have to go through that push-pull situation. And then they can maybe hear this video and it clicks a few things for them that opens up more of a fluid experience in their life. In order for me to do that, I have to learn how to work a camera, I have to learn how to work YouTube, I have to learn all the technological aspects of it and the SEO aspects, and I have to make thumbnails, I have to do all these other things that, the first few times I did it, quite a few times I did it, it was not flow state. It was trial and error. It was push-pull. It was a situation that required me to push through certain levels of stress and not be in this nectary kind of flowy space that we all want to be in. Now, I'm not saying that you can't learn in a certain space of flow, right? But it's a different kind of flow than that nectary kind of free-flowing mindless space, right? The kind of flow that is associated with the learning aspect or the trial and error aspect is really it's kind of like an emotional resilience kind of flow. So, and this is a whole kind of different skill set in a way, because it still requires you to be in situations where you're running into walls and things aren't working, but you're learning how to calibrate, you're learning how to be more flowy in a kind of trial and error environment. But the trial error environment does not look the same way as when you're absolutely just in the flow, right? And the structures are already built. So it's important for us to really respect this process of structure building, right? And then to integrate the process of structure building into our understanding of the flow and being in the flow in life. Because these are like yin and yang. They're two different aspects of the same thing. And if we don't honor both aspects of it, then eventually what happens is, like I said, our flow turns stagnant because there's not riverbanks to funnel the flow through. Or we end up kind of leaning on the structures that have been given to us by other people's blood, sweat, and tears, and we're not adding to the structure world, and we're basically just kind of like mooching off of other people's hard work. So that's all I have for you today. This is Patrick Hayes. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the comments below. If you'd like me to make more videos like this, make sure you let me know. Hit that like button, and I will talk to you next time. One love.